I open this reflection with a truth that might feel unsettling at first. Spiritual wealth does not arrive the moment you become ready. It arrives the moment you stop pretending you already are. And I learned this the hard way, in a single instant, that shattered my comfort and forced me to confront the quiet lies I had been whispering to myself. It still echoes in me. The realization that prosperity begins not in the bank account, but in the hidden corners of the mind where we store our smallest, most fragile beliefs about who we are allowed to become. People often imagine that abundance comes wrapped in grand gestures timed perfectly with luck or destiny. But Jewish wisdom teaches something far more disruptive. The world responds to the words we choose in our most secret moments. A single sentence can open doors or seal them shut. And perhaps the most dangerous sentence of all is the one we repeat without thinking, the one that builds the walls of our own limitations while we call it harmless. Before we go deeper, I want you to do something simple yet powerful. Pause for a breath and type in the comments one phrase you've been saying to yourself lately, even if it feels small, even if it feels silly. Do it because speaking it out loud forces your mind to acknowledge it, and acknowledging it is the first step toward transforming it. This is not a social task, it's a spiritual declaration. When you write a phrase publicly, you take ownership of it, and ownership is the birthplace of change. I'm sharing this because for years I repeated a sentence that looked innocent but carried the weight of invisible chains. Every time life pressed against me, I muttered, "It's okay, it's fine, I'll manage." Those words felt practical, even humble. But deep down, they were a subtle agreement with stagnation. They declared that I needed nothing more, expected nothing more, deserved nothing more. And the universe, always listening, always responding, simply echoed back what I had claimed. You may have done the same without noticing. A rushed, "I'm fine," a quiet, "It's whatever," a resigned, "That's just life." These phrases seem harmless, but in the language of the soul, they are contracts. And contracts shape outcomes. When you say you are fine, you close the window through which possibility tries to enter. When you say nothing needs to change, you declare that blessings have no space to land. Jewish tradition teaches that the world itself was formed by words spoken into the void. And if words can shape creation, imagine what they do to a single life. Imagine what they do to yours. This is why today matters. This is why your phrase in the comments matters. Because once we uncover the true power hidden inside everyday language, we begin to see the quiet traps we fall into, and the even quieter doors that are waiting to open. And there is one door most people never notice, until it's too late. Something went wrong while generating the response. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. There is a belief at the heart of Jewish wisdom that has followed me since childhood, whispered from one generation to the next, as if it carried the weight of a secret the world wasn't quite ready to understand. It says that every word we speak is an act of creation, not metaphorically, spiritually, energetically, and in ways that ripple through the unseen layers of our lives. When I finally understood this, I began to realize that spiritual wealth is not a reward for the chosen few. It is the natural consequence of aligning speech with truth, desire, and purpose. This idea may sound mystical, but to me, it became startlingly practical. My ancestors didn't treat words as decorations. They treated them as tools, as seeds, as sparks of something divine. My great-grandfather, a quiet man who carried more wisdom in his silence than most people carry in libraries, used to say that every sentence was a doorway. One opened, another closed. One invited light, another summoned shadows. And he learned this not from books but from loss, a kind of loss that rearranges a soul. He once told our family that there were 3 days in his youth when everything he had worked for slipped through his fingers like sand. Not because of a storm, not because of an enemy, not because of fate, but because he had convinced himself that things were good enough. Those were his words, harmless words, comfortable words, words that lulled him into stillness at the exact moment life required movement. He later called them a spell he cast on himself without knowing. And when he reversed that spell, everything began to change again. That memory stayed with me. It created a contrast so sharp that even today I feel it like a blade. Some people speak themselves into expansion, while others speak themselves into paralysis. Two people can face the same challenge, hold the same fears, carry the same dreams, yet the one who says, "Thank God I'm growing," rises, and the one who mutters, "I'm fine," remains exactly where they are. It's not magic, it's alignment. What I want you to understand now is that this contrast isn't abstract. It appears in your daily life, in the way you answer when someone asks how you're doing, in the way you describe your finances, in the way you talk about your future. The difference between truth and self-deception can be a single phrase, and most people never notice which one they're choosing. There is a pattern hidden here, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. A pattern made of tiny verbal habits that either unlock spiritual wealth or silently drain it away. And at the center of this pattern lie three mistakes, subtle, common, and devastating, that almost everyone makes without realizing. The first one is so deeply ingrained that you may have already spoken it today, without understanding the cost. The first mistake is so ordinary, so woven into daily conversation, that most people defend it as politeness or humility. Yet it quietly reshapes the course of their lives. The mistake is saying, "I'm fine," even when your spirit is restless, your heart is heavy, or your goals are begging for more space to grow. Those two small words act like a seal, closing the door on everything you hope to receive but haven't allowed yourself to admit. I spent years repeating that phrase without questioning it. "I'm fine. It's okay. I'll manage." I thought I was being strong, composed, responsible. But in truth, I was declaring to the universe that I needed nothing, wanted nothing, expected nothing. And that declaration became my reality. Jewish wisdom teaches that words are not reflections of the world. They are instructions to it. When you say you are fine, you broadcast a message of completion, a message that there is no space for blessing to enter. Spiritually, this creates an invisible blockage. Rationally, it creates stagnation. Together they form a barrier so subtle you don't realize you're leaning against it until life feels strangely unmoving. I once heard of a man whose journey mirrored my own. A neighbor of my family, a gentle soul who worked tirelessly yet struggled to advance. Every time someone asked how he was doing, he replied with the same quiet phrase, "All good. I'm fine." Even on days when he wasn't. Especially on days when he wasn't. Then came a season when everything collapsed at once. His work, his finances, his confidence. And when he finally opened up to my great-grandfather, the old man said something he repeated to me many years later. "You told the world you were full, and the world listened." It was a painful truth, but also a liberating one, because if words can build walls, they can also break them. The consequence of denying your own need for growth is immediate, even if you don't see it right away. Opportunities dull, intuition quiets. The energy that once moved you forward slows, then stills. It's like telling life you have enough oxygen when you're actually running out of breath. And life, believing you, stops offering more. This is why the phrase "I'm fine" is so dangerous. It hides your pain not just from others but from yourself. It convinces your mind that settling is noble, that silence is strength, that stillness is peace. But deep down, a part of you knows the truth. You are not here to stay the same. You are here to rise. And once you understand this mistake, once you see how easily those two words can close the gates of abundance, another question begins to form naturally, almost urgently. If such a small phrase can block so much, what other hidden laws might be shaping your path without your awareness? There is one law in particular, ancient, revered, and easily misunderstood, that explains exactly why this happens. There is an ancient teaching, preserved in the quiet folds of Jewish tradition, that explains why those small phrases carry such immense weight. The Talmud warns, "Be cautious when speaking as though you already possess everything you need, for the one who claims fullness cannot receive more." At first glance, it sounds poetic, almost symbolic. But the deeper I ventured into this wisdom, the more I understood that it speaks to a spiritual mechanism as real as gravity. When you declare that you are complete, you unconsciously shut the channels through which life tries to deliver its next blessing. This teaching is not meant to frighten, it is meant to awaken. Because in a world where people are encouraged to appear strong, stable, and unbothered, the courage to admit desire becomes a sacred act. When we say "I'm fine," we create a spiritual posture of closure. But when we say "I am growing," even in the smallest whisper, we open the gates again. And this principle appears not only in sacred texts, but also in the everyday moments where psychology and spirituality quietly meet. When your mind believes that everything is good enough, it stops scanning for new possibilities. The brain shifts into maintenance mode instead of expansion mode. Your attention narrows, opportunities go unnoticed, and effort becomes minimal. To the mind, completion equals stillness. To the spirit, stillness equals decline. And together they create a life that moves in circles instead of forward. To visualize this, imagine holding a cup filled to the brim with water. If someone tries to pour fresh water into it, everything spills over the sides. The cup cannot receive anything new until there is space. Life works the same way. Blessings require room. Growth requires vacancy. Prosperity requires openness. If the vessel is full, or pretending to be, there is nowhere for abundance to land. This is why the first step toward spiritual wealth is not striving, but admitting. Admitting that you want more clarity, more direction, more peace, more prosperity. Admitting that the story you are living is good, but not yet the story you are meant for. There is no shame in this. In fact, in Jewish thought, the willingness to expand is seen as a sign of life force itself. Stagnation is the illusion, growth is the truth. So pause for a moment. Look inward with honesty, not judgment. Ask yourself, where have I been saying, "I'm fine," when something in me is quietly asking for change? Where have I acted full while secretly craving space to breathe? This reflection is not meant to expose weakness, but to reveal possibility. Because the moment you recognize the gap between where you are and where you long to be, the universe begins rearranging itself to bridge that distance. And as soon as that recognition appears, something else emerges. A deeper understanding that the first mistake is only part of the story. Because there is a second error, far more subtle and often disguised as confidence, that quietly derails even those who have begun to awaken. The second mistake hides in moments of triumph, slipping in softly when the dust of a small victory settles. It whispers that the hard part is over, that the path has been conquered, that effort can finally be set aside. This is the error of lowering your guard, the belief that once you have tasted a little progress, you can safely relax. And while rest is necessary, the illusion of finality is dangerous. Jewish wisdom teaches that spiritual wealth is not a destination, but a movement, a living current that weakens the moment we stop flowing with it. I have seen this pattern play out again and again, in myself, in friends, in strangers whose stories echo the same rhythm. After a period of growth, a promotion, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity, there's a subtle temptation to lean back and say, "Now I've got it." But that phrase carries a false confidence that invites stagnation. It signals to the mind that the mission has been completed, and the mind, always eager to conserve energy, responds by dimming its awareness and slowing its momentum. My grandmother used to explain this with a metaphor so vivid it made me laugh even as it humbled me. A crocodile that falls asleep becomes a handbag. It was her way of saying that life does not wait for the distracted, the complacent, or the overly confident. Even in calm waters, vigilance is wisdom. Movement is protection. Growth is the only safe place to stand. Psychologically, this makes perfect sense. The brain is designed to conserve energy, so the moment it believes a goal has been fully achieved, it reduces the effort dedicated to that area of life. Spiritually, something similar happens. The energy that once surged through your intentions quiets down. The light that guided you through uncertainty fades just enough to make you lose direction. You're not falling backward. You've simply stopped moving forward, and that is enough to shift the entire trajectory. And yet beneath all this, lies a moral truth. Life rewards those who remain awake, not anxious, not restless, awake, still growing, still listening, still willing to stretch toward the next version of themselves. Prosperity is not a state, it is a relationship, one that deepens through consistency. Every day you choose to expand, you reaffirm your participation in that relationship. Every day you pause in complacency, you weaken it. This is why the wisdom of never assuming victory is so vital. It doesn't mean you cannot celebrate. Celebrate deeply. Celebrate often. But do not mistake celebration for completion. Do not confuse progress with permanence. The moment you believe you've already won, you send a subtle message to the universe and to your own subconscious that evolution is no longer required. But there is still a deeper danger, one that hides behind an even more seductive illusion. If the second mistake is complacency, the third is something far more insidious, a lie that feels comforting, harmless, even noble, until you see what it steals from you. The third mistake is the most deceptive of all because it masquerades as wisdom, humility, and even maturity. It is the quiet belief that things are exactly as they should be, that life requires no further stretching, no deeper reaching, no continued becoming. This lie settles softly into the soul, wrapping itself in the comfort of acceptance while strangling the very hunger that leads to growth. It says, "This is enough. I am enough. Life is enough." And although these words sound wholesome, they carry a hidden consequence. They close the gates of possibility long before possibility has finished knocking. Jewish wisdom teaches that the human soul was created with an infinite capacity for expansion. Not because we are incomplete, but because we are dynamic, designed to rise, to evolve, to elevate. To accept stagnation as destiny is to deny the essence of the soul itself. My great-grandfather once explained this to me through a simple metaphor. A fire that claims it has burned enough will die in its own ashes. I didn't understand it then, but now the meaning is painfully clear. Growth is not a burden, it is the breath of the spirit. The danger of the third mistake lies not in comfort, but in comfort that becomes complacency. It hides inside phrases like, "I guess this is just who I am," or "This is my limit," or "This is my life now." Such statements are not neutral, they are declarations. And declarations shape pathways. When repeated often enough, they become the architecture of a life that stops unfolding. What startled me the most was discovering that this isn't only spiritual language. Modern research seems to echo the same truth. A study from Israeli behavioral economists revealed that people who repeat fixed, limiting phrases about their circumstances tend to experience a measurable decline in progress, a subtle drop, around 12%, in areas related to earnings, initiative, and long-term improvement. Not because fate punishes them, but because their mindset shifts into stillness. Their actions follow, their results mirror it. But here is where the shadow begins to lift. Because if a phrase can shrink a life, a different phrase can expand it. If the lie of everything is exactly fine can dim the spirit, then the truth, the deeper, more honest truth, can reignite it. The truth that there is always something within you asking to rise, always another layer of potential waiting for space, always a next step whispering for attention. This is why the third mistake is so critical to understand. It reveals not only what needs to be avoided, but what needs to be embraced. It reminds us that spiritual wealth begins the moment we admit that more light is possible, more growth is welcome, more blessing is allowed. And once we recognize this, something remarkable happens. The door that once seemed closed begins to open. The lie begins to dissolve. And the path toward a new way of speaking, and a new way of living, finally starts to shine through the cracks. Now that the three mistakes have been exposed and the fog around them has begun to lift, a quiet question naturally rises. If the wrong words can close paths, which words can open them? Jewish wisdom has always taught that transformation rarely begins with a grand gesture. It begins with a shift in language, a new sentence carried on the breath, a phrase that realigns the inner world before the outer world even notices. I remember the moment this became clear to me, the moment I understood that prosperity is not summoned by desperation, but invited through direction, and that direction can be spoken in just a handful of words. Before I share them, you need to feel the space they enter, the space created when the old lies dissolve. When you stop saying, "I'm fine," you crack open the first window. When you stop believing you have already won, you unlock the next. When you stop pretending there is no more growth ahead, the air shifts around you, making room for something new to arrive. It is only then, in that cleared space, that the next phrase can plant itself like a seed ready to bloom. The phrase is simple, but simplicity is often where power hides. Thank God I'm working and evolving. These 7 words hold an entire spiritual architecture within them. Gratitude, action, growth. In Jewish thought, these are not abstract concepts. They are living forces. Gratitude signals openness, a readiness to receive. Action signals intention, a willingness to participate in the unfolding of your own destiny. And growth signals humility, the understanding that you are on a path that continues to rise. Let's break this down, not as a lesson but as a personal revelation. Thank God is not about dogma, it is about alignment. It tells the universe, and in your own mind, that you are anchored in appreciation rather than scarcity. Gratitude opens doors because it acknowledges the presence of abundance even before abundance expands. It shifts your emotional state from grasping to receiving. I am working is the promise of movement. It means you are not sitting still, waiting for life to change on its own. You are participating, taking steps, keeping your inner waters flowing. The moment you declare movement, the mind lights up, searching for opportunities to match that statement. And evolving is the heartbeat of it all. It means there is no finish line, no fixed identity, no final version of you. It acknowledges that you are still becoming, still unfolding, still stretching into a larger shape. This is the language of the soul, the language of upward motion. To make this phrase more than just poetry, you need to weave it into your daily rhythm. Set an alarm on your phone for 9 in the morning, a gentle reminder that appears like a small knock from the future you are building. When it rings, read the phrase slowly, breathing it in as if you are feeding your spirit. Do this every day for 7 days, and watch how your focus begins to shift, how opportunities seem to appear with slightly more clarity, how your sense of direction strengthens. Because when you speak these words consistently, something begins to move around you and within you, a movement that becomes even more undeniable when you witness how others have transformed through the very same shift. I once met a woman whose story became a living testament to the power of shifting a single phrase. Her name was Dona Lucia, and though she was not a scholar of sacred texts, she carried the kind of wisdom that life carves into a person who has seen both darkness and dawn. For years she lived in a small house that always felt slightly dim, not because of the light but because of the quiet heaviness she carried in her words. Whenever someone asked how she was doing, she replied, "It's the same. Nothing changes." She didn't mean it as a complaint, it was simply the rhythm she had learned to speak. But life listens. And the more she repeated it, the more her days mirrored the sentence. Her work stalled. Her finances wavered. Her health felt sluggish, though no doctor could explain why. What she didn't realize was that her phrase had become both a diagnosis and a prophecy. Then, during a community gathering, she overheard an elder explaining the weight of everyday speech. Something in her shifted, not instantly, but gently, like a curtain lifting enough for new light to seep in. She decided to try something small. Instead of saying "nothing changes," she began whispering, "Thank God I am growing." At first it felt strange, even dishonest, but she kept repeating it, not as a performance but as an invitation. Her voice softened, her shoulders relaxed. Her home felt a little brighter, though the walls were the same. Within a few weeks, subtle changes emerged. A new opportunity at work appeared. A friend offered help with a financial challenge she had been too embarrassed to mention. Small improvements gathered like tiny stones, forming a path she hadn't seen before. After 2 months, people began to tell her she looked different, lighter, more alive. She didn't attribute it to luck. She knew it came from the shift in her inner narrative. Her before and after story wasn't dramatic like a movie scene. It was gradual, grounded, real. Before, heaviness, repetition, quiet resignation. After, motion, clarity, a sense of forwardness so gentle it almost felt like a breeze guiding her. She taught me that prosperity doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives as a subtle lifting of the spirit, an inner alignment that slowly transforms the outer world. And perhaps the most beautiful part of her journey is that she wasn't Jewish, nor did she know much about spiritual tradition. She simply embraced a principle that is universal. The energy of words belongs to everyone. Whether rooted in sacred teachings or personal introspection, the truth remains the same. Language shapes direction. Anyone, regardless of background, can choose to speak in a way that invites growth instead of repeating phrases that keep life standing still. Her story became a reminder that transformation is not reserved for the spiritually elite. It is available to anyone who is willing to adjust the compass of their speech. And as we move forward, this truth deepens into something even more profound: that the very fabric of prosperity rests on a foundation far older and far wider than any single example. When I look at all these stories, the mistakes, the shifts, the transformations, they lead me back to a truth that is woven into the very center of Jewish thought. Words create worlds. This idea is not poetic embellishment. It is the foundation of a spiritual philosophy that has guided generations. God said, and it came to be. Creation itself began with speech, with the vibration of intention becoming form. And if the cosmos was shaped this way, how much more our individual lives? The phrases we choose, spoken or unspoken, become the architecture of our inner reality long before they influence the outer one. Understanding this principle is like seeing the inner gears of prosperity for the first time. It reveals why growth requires movement, why openness invites blessing, why complacency dims the spirit. It shows that abundance is not a random event, but a pattern we either align with or resist through our choices, our attitudes, and especially our words. When we speak with awareness, we synchronize with the ancient rhythm that has guided seekers for centuries. When we speak carelessly, we drift from it, often without realizing how far we've gone. The beauty of this philosophy is that it places extraordinary power into ordinary moments. You don't need wealth, status, or perfect circumstances to begin shifting your reality. You need only the willingness to choose phrases that align with growth instead of phrases that bind you to stagnation. This is why the invitation to practice for 7 days matters so deeply. 7 days is not an arbitrary number. It mirrors the structure of creation itself. 7 stages, 7 layers, 7 breaths, through which transformation unfolds. For the next 7 days, speak the new phrase every morning, not as a ritual but as a reorientation. Thank God I am working and evolving. Allow it to shape the tone of your day before the world distracts you with noise. Observe gently and without pressure how your mindset shifts. You may notice subtle sparks at first, small insights, clearer decisions, a sense of movement where there was once heaviness. These are not coincidences. They are signs that your inner world is beginning to align with a deeper current. Because prosperity in Jewish thought is not merely money or success. It is expansion. It is becoming larger inside your own life. It is stepping into the version of yourself that feels more awake, more purposeful, more connected. And this expansion is a choice made moment by moment, word by word. The path is available to anyone, to those who believe, to those who doubt, to those who feel lost, and to those who feel ready. The universe does not discriminate between those who understand this wisdom and those who are encountering it for the first time. It responds to alignment, not ancestry. And as this alignment begins to take root, a new feeling emerges. Curiosity. A sense that something deeper still lies beneath these teachings, waiting quietly in the next layer. Because as powerful as these words are, there is something beyond them, something older, sharper, and even more transformative, waiting just ahead. As we arrive at the end of this journey, I find myself returning to the simplest truth that has echoed through every example, every teaching, every moment of reflection. Do not say, "I'm fine." Do not let that phrase become the quiet anchor that keeps your spirit from rising. Instead, root yourself in the language of expansion, in the gentle but powerful declaration, "Thank God I am growing." These words hold the essence of everything we have uncovered: honesty, movement, openness, and the courage to step into the next version of yourself. When we look back at the steps we walked together, the hidden mistakes, the ancient teachings, the stories of those who transformed, a clear pattern appears. Words are not accessories to life. They are the levers that shift its direction. They open or close the pathways of blessing. They solidify or dissolve the limits we think we must live inside. And once you understand this, spiritual wealth stops being a mystery. It becomes a practice, a choice, a daily alignment between what you say and who you are becoming. So as you bring these teachings into your own days, I offer you a blessing that has been spoken for centuries, a blessing that carries protection, expansion, and light. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you and grant you peace. These words have crossed deserts, oceans, and generations, anchoring countless lives in purpose and guidance. Let them rest on you now, wherever you are, whatever chapter you stand in. And if this message has touched you, even gently, let your participation extend beyond yourself. Share this video with 3 people who need a reminder that their story is not finished, that their spirit is still in motion, that spiritual wealth is available to them starting today. When you share wisdom, you amplify its reach. And when you amplify its reach, you become part of the very flow you are inviting into your own life. As we close this chapter, know this: the journey does not end here. There is more, far more, waiting to be explored. There is a deeper principle, older than the words we have spoken, hidden in the heart of Jewish prosperity wisdom, one that explains why some people rise even in seasons of darkness, while others struggle in seasons of light. And in the next episode, we will open that door together,